So yeah, thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to the April edition of our webinar series. And this morning we're going to be looking at document creation in Foldr. So the new document creation capability of MASH, variable data, document merging, file creation, automated document page modification, and more, as long as we can fit it into the 15 minutes. So not to waste any more time. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pass straight over to Damien. Over to you.
Thanks. I still think you've missed an opportunity by not doing the show tunes. So yeah, maybe next time. Guys, last time I did one of these, I went sailing past the time allocation, so I'm going to move really quite quickly. Quite a lot of what we're going to talk about today is not entirely new in Foldr, but it's been refined or increased or generally made bigger, more shiny and more clever. So as Diane says, we're going to talk around document creation in Foldr. What is it? Well, logically, guys, this is Foldr being able to both automatically create documents, create data, take on the roles of some very traditional variable data, for example, but also being able to push that to other locations. As you'll appreciate, we're not going to get all the way through all of that in 15 minutes. This is going to be, maybe if Diane's recording it, you'll be able to play it slower. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. I'll just try and talk really fast. So just to recap on what we're using, Foldr is currently a suite of 3 different components. In fact, 4 now. I keep forgetting there's another 4th one on the price book. And one of those, the most powerful one perhaps, is a thing called MASH. Make stuff happen. It's a script and automation engine that can run and exist within the Foldr environment. And the library of things that MASH can actually get involved with is growing all the time. There is a set of docs. There's a link in this presentation that will take you to some of the things with it. 1 or 2 of the most rounded libraries that MASH can interact with are document creation and image manipulation tools. They've been in the library for a while, but they've been expanded now. So if you don't know anything about MASH, this isn't the place to learn about MASH, but we would definitely love to tell you about MASH because it offers some really unique features and functions, which are quite important to the product moving forward. Okay. Variable data printing, I'm going to use this as or variable data production, I think is probably a more accurate state, just to give you an idea of the type of thing we're talking about. So what we're talking about is Foldr having a piece of text or a text file or a piece of data and a template for a document, putting one over the top of the other in a nice location and firing it out to another file, an image file, a PDF or something like this. This is a very, very lightweight version of something you might have seen happen from the likes of Planet Press, for example. We are not suggesting that Foldr is Planet Press. It's not that specialist, but that kind of capability to be able to take a fixed set of data and overlay that onto an invoice template or a medical record outline or some kind of shipping thing. And this is becoming more and more and more prevalent as more and more businesses move over to totally digital platforms where they're using logistics, where they need to do things, and we're removing printers and even going full digital, because of course Foldr allows us to bring things from anywhere and put things to anywhere. So this really is a set of data that can get kind of interesting. So let's actually, in typical Damien fashion, let's actually take a look at it and give you some very simple examples. They've got to be simple because I've been told not to go over time. So here we go. If you have never seen a Foldr appliance and you don't know what we're talking about, reach out to an account manager. You need to see this thing. It's getting so all-encompassing in its capabilities now, and the commercials for this thing are also very, very disruptive in the marketplace. So by all means, reach out to an account manager if you don't know enough about Foldr, and I suspect you probably don't because there's so much to know. But if we take a look in here, just give you a real simple example, you'll see that I have a folder with nothing in it. Okay, this is me showing you the sleeves are rolled up, there's nothing there. And if we take a little look and we go back and I try and go to materials, you'll see that I have a text file. That text file just has some very simple text references in it. So what I want to do, that variable data piece, really quickly, is just populate those over an image file, over a template. And what Mash looks like, this is a piece of code. Now, Mash is an engine that allows us to talk to various different libraries and interact with all of the different files and things that are going on throughout the Foldr instance. Now, I'm running these manually, but Mash scripts can be triggered on events, on timers, on uploads, on file indexing. They can even be triggered manually nowadays. So there's even a right-click run script function, which has just arrived in Mash literally this week. So it's a new thing. In this case, if you remember, I have nothing in my folder. I'm going to trigger this script manually, and hopefully you'll see that some stuff is done. And if I come back here, you'll notice that they've all been created. And there is my piece of text. I won't say it's the most scintillating example, but I took a line of text out of that text file and I've actually laid it over an image file, and I have achieved. There's the proof. So you'll notice that this is actually relatively powerful, because rather than it being a single file for a single template, my my script is actually creating a different one. Julie Andrews, she's a big friend of mine, for each of the lines. Now, this does mean that we can start to create very complex document builds with lots of different variable data elements to them, but the libraries also allows us to do something very different, to be able to augment existing images. So things like redaction. So let me take a step backwards here, talking really fast, trying to keep on it. And you'll note that in here I have a couple of letters. Let's just take a quick letter here. And if I go back, I have nothing in this file. And again, I'm going to manually trigger a Mash script. I'm going to run this. And it's going to take a little longer, but what's happening is it's looking at a data set. It's looking at reference names and numbers and other things that might need a business to start to redact them. And if I come back, hopefully in a little minute, it will have started to redact my files automatically and move them into a location. So I can create images from literally nothing. I can augment text with stuff. I could start to edit files with things like redactions and watermarks, and add barcodes or QR codes. In fact, any of those type of things can be done as well. And if any of you are panicky about that this is script and code, of course, yes, Mash is a script and code engine, but one of the new things that's going actually with Mash is they are now configurable. You can see that we can start to configure things. This is one that drives our AI data extraction, and they are as simple as tell me what I want to go in which box, and that will align the Mash script to where I want it to go. And as we've also said, if I wanted to, I can start to go right click and trigger Mash scripts, or even run those from it. So, okay, what does this mean in my last 60 seconds? Well, this is a very, very messy slide, of course, on purpose. But if you don't remember, then Foldr can start to take files from or use any location as capture. It can act as its own mail server. It can use iOS and Android devices for data capture with the cameras and document scanners, SFTP, Box, Dropbox, Amazon S3, Google Drive, SharePoint, WebDAV locations, even web hooks. If we can hit a URL, we can run a Mash script. And of course, 365 and SharePoint are represented in there, as are Windows, SMB shares, and Mac OS as well. We've got those libraries that allow us to blend text, to create barcodes and data glyphs, to enable watermarks, to redact things, anything you can write over and above. If you look at the bottom here, you'll see in this video docs.foldr.io/Mash, and you'll be able to find all of the different libraries that Mash can actually touch, including the image modification and creation stuff. And of course, we can start to import text files. As you've seen, we've used that as a base to variable data. We can start to use things like web forms to drive that data and document creation. We can even look at data sources like ODBC and SQL and other things. And we're not limited to only producing PDFs now. Foldr also supports IPP print release. So Foldr can take your text from a web form, generate a document, and then throw it to an IPP print device if you wanted to, because IPP is now part of Foldr. It doesn't have to create PDFs. It could create pretty spreadsheets, including graphs and all sorts of nice things. We could do Word documents. We could launch things via emails. We could even start to populate web resources and interact with APIs. And of course, those end locations can be all of the same locations that we started at the beginning, which is literally anything. And so I think, given that we wanted to talk about this in 15 minutes, that's a couple of demos, a very, very busy slide that basically summarizes anything from anywhere combined with any components to be able to be delivered out with anything. And of course, as we go through this thing, you will see that typically everything that happens on these appliances is tracked via IP, via time, via username, via the type of client, via even the agent being utilized to do it. So the audit trails and capabilities and reporting of Foldr still continues to be best in class. And Diane, I'm pretty sure I may have overdone that by 60 seconds, but does that sort
I think you've still got 3 minutes.
I thought we had to be done by 30:30. Oh,
9:27.
Should I use an analog clock? With the 3 minutes. Are there any questions? There's lots of other things that, of course, we could talk about and do. I've really accelerated past that. If I'd have talked slower, I wouldn't have overshot.
But as Damien said, Foldr is now 4 components. So you might have heard of Foldr back in the day. It has changed. It has moved on. It has progressed massively since it was first launched. So please do get in touch with myself, Lee, Max, Ben, Sean, whoever your account manager is, and we can make sure we can get one of our specialists over to you and explain all about Foldr, all of its capabilities, and how it will benefit your customer base.
I will also, seeing as we do have a couple of seconds, there we go. I'm going to update this. Just show that feature now with being able to run Mash manually. So anyone who's been involved with Foldr and Mash knows that it's a very much a background thing. Like we said, it can run on a timer or an event and upload and index and all sorts, but we can now also run this from a location. So just to prove this, here is an image file. It's a pretty motorbike because it's my motorbike. There we go. And you can see there's nothing in this location URL. And if I actually wanted to extract some data, it's hopefully going to look at the EXIF data and put a location in. But if I click on this, I can now choose a Mash script and I can run it. It will take a minute. And you can see that I'm getting live updates, and that's actually going to take me straight to the pin when that photograph was taken. And those live updates are now a feature because Foldr has server-side events listed as well. So if something happens to a file, it will tell a user, as you've seen, and allow me to do it. So that's another feature. I didn't think we were going to have time to get it in today, but we did. Right-click, 2 webinars in 1.
It's really hard to say what kind of problems Foldr actually resolves. It's like, what problem has your customer got? We can probably write a script to resolve that customer problem. So come to us, tell us what your issues your customers are having. I'm sure we can find a way of getting Foldr and Mash to work together and resolve those problems.
Yeah, and there's an awful lot more coming down the road with it as well. So we're going to be talking a lot more around AI extraction that's going on with the capture engine. And of course, no spoiler, but come back in a couple of weeks, guys, to understand an entirely new, hopefully an entirely new commercial model and offering for the Foldr appliances as well. If you want to know what Mash can do, that link there, which I suppose I really ought to stick in the chat, perhaps if there is a chat. This is where you can actually come and find out more about Foldr and Mash and exactly what it is and where it is and stuff. I will throw that link in the chat. There we go. Because we do get asked all the time. I can't paste stuff into the chat. That's great. We get asked all the time, what can it do? And there we go. And this is
amazing.
Where it can do. There we go. We'll go in there. Yeah, there's the link. And it is 30:30 now.
It's perfect timing.
There we go.
So yeah, thank you everybody for hopping on this morning. We appreciate your time first thing on a Wednesday morning.